and welcome to the Service Operations Podcast. I am your host, 𝗨𝗏𝗏𝗏. Our guests are from different industries and functions. They will share their experience, strategies, and the changing landscape to help you take the service operations of your business to the next level. Hello, 𝗵𝗵𝗯. Nice to have you here for the podcast. Today we are talking to Dr. 𝗵𝗵𝗯. 𝗵𝗵𝗯 has been in this market research industry for over 25 years, and she has very rich experience of market research as well as of the evolution that all the industries have undergone. So we hope to have a very interesting and insightful conversation. Welcome once again, 𝗵𝗵𝗯.
Thanks a lot, Satinder, for inviting me over for this video podcast. Yes, I have been in the industry for more than 2 decades and I've seen the industry evolving. So, very happy to share my insights on this podcast with you.
So let me just first ask you, in your journey, earlier market research, the ones that we saw say 20 years back or even much later, people were meeting each other, talking to each other, and then the feedback used to be based on that. And today, we are in a completely non-human kind of environment. So let us know along your journey what has changed from how you did market research then to how you're doing market research now.
So market research has also evolved like many other industries. Tech has entered the domain, and we are seeing artificial intelligence, machine learning being used tremendously in this industry as well. But a lot can be done with the help of artificial intelligence and machine learning. However, because of the pandemic situation that we faced in 2020, everything got, kind of accelerated. So we started doing market research, a lot of market research kind of activities of obtaining feedbacks from our customers or consumers, basically through Zoom chats, video chats. So the data collection part really started happening a lot through using technology.
Okay.
But there's a lot still that AI and MI can really do, because we can think about automating the surveys themselves. We can think about, giving findings in about seconds time after the feedback is being collected. So a lot of things can still be done, and I would say it's being done, but not as frequently as we would like it to happen. So
Okay.
there's a lot of human intervention which is still there in market research. Although a lot of our clients have started making this distinction between market research by calling it as traditional market research, where we used to do a lot of, data collection through physical face-to-face kind of interviews. We used to do a lot of our presentations in a physical setup. Now we are doing all those things in a Zoom kind of a setup or a video chat kind of a setup. So that's different from the traditional market research. But yet, I would say that in today's time we could do a lot more with AI and market and machine learning in
Okay.
market research.
So just let me ask you one question at this. As a researcher,
Hmm.
okay, when you are talking to me, supposing you are asking me questions and I'm giving you answers, right? So
Hmm.
now what happens is that, can all that you ask me and what I tell you,
Hmm.
are you able to get all that information just by going through some app or through some questionnaire or through some survey? Is it the same, or do you see some kind of a difference in that?
No, I mean the process really remains the same, Satinder. So
Okay.
like we are doing a chat just now.
Yeah.
We would do a similar kind of a supposing if it's a qualitative research, we would do a similar kind of a conversation with our consumers. It could be in a group setting, it could be in a one-on-one setting like we are
Okay.
doing,
Okay.
and the whole meeting is getting recorded, and then this recording gets converted into transcripts,
Okay.
and then these transcripts are converted into various subsections of of that conversation. Like we are having a conversation, there's some guiding principle. So similarly, our discussions with the consumers also has certain guiding principles. It has certain sections, so the transcripts then gets converted into contents under each of these sections, and
Okay.
then the normal analysis process is done for presenting our findings, for getting for gleaning out those consumer insights and presenting it to our clients. So the process really is the same, but there is a lot of technology intervention now. Similarly, even in a quantitative questionnaire scenario, you do a lot of online surveys, which was there nearly about, it started, the whole journey of online surveys started about 15-20 years back. A lot of people started doing online surveys, and also surveys which could have been done in a random kind of a setting, because the citizen became equal to netizen 15 years back. So
Hmm.
even random surveys started being conducted through online
Yeah.
technology, so
Yeah.
it started happening.
So my question here was that, see, when we are talking to each other, you are
Hmm.
also able to gauge my expressions, my emotions.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how, so what, the process that you are talking about is converting a physical process into an automated process, or not automated, really, using technology. So
Yeah.
instead of going and sitting across the table, we are now having a, say, a Zoom call, or a call on the net. The How do you capture these nuances that you could capture earlier by looking at a person or talking to a person? Now that's different from how it is now.
So yeah, so that's a very nice question. Yeah, I mean there are observations which researchers typically does. It can definitely happen in a qualitative kind of a survey. In fact, just recently we completed one study on uh, in the chocolate category, and in a group kind of a setting, we saw that one particular participant was not talking a lot. So we observed that, and then we,
Yeah.
actually pointed it out to that person while doing while doing that discussion. Pointed it out, meaning we didn't say that, okay, you are not talking. So we just, try to nudge her, try to get her involved into the discussions. So yeah, we have to do that. And sometimes when you feel that some person is dominating a particular discussion a lot and not allowing the other people to talk, then you start using your normal conversational techniques, where you try and say, okay, Smita, why don't you tell me? You also must have used this particular, chocolate which had fruit and nut into it. So, what happened when you bought that particular dairy milk with fruit and nut? Did your children really like it? Because there was a lot of discussion that was going on around, a dairy milk chocolate which is minus the fruit and nut. A lot of children probably don't like fruit and nut into their chocolate. They like just the dairy milk. So, so those kind of discussions you can bring out in a very pointed manner by talking one on one in that group setting with that person. If you find that some person is sitting in a corner and not wanting to talk that much, but what happens is, in a quantitative setup it becomes difficult, because there you're not really seeing that respondent, so it is
Yes.
happening in a remote location, and they're just answering the questions at their own end, and there you don't really have control on who's answering that question. I mean, the questionnaire might be sent to you, but you may
Yeah.
not be answering that question. Maybe somebody from your maid or your somebody in your family is answering that your question, and then that's not desirable, because for us the target audience is probably you, and you've been chosen because you fit that eligibility criteria of the survey. So there we could face these kind of problems. But again, here too technology has really come to our help. We have telephonic, so there is a setup for doing those kind of quantitative interview. So there's a phone call, there's a predetermined time that you decide with the person, and then the online interview can happen. I mean, there need not be a face to face
Hmm.
camera
Hmm.
on kind of a setup, but
Hmm.
you could guide that person, navigate that person through that question by personalizing the whole interview or the quantitative interview with it. So you could do that. So technology again comes to help there.
Yeah. So I think one is, of course, the physical or the face-to-face process. The
Yeah.
other is that, you kind of use technology to, to interact with people. So I think to that extent, of course, you could interact with more people than you did earlier, because now
Yeah.
you can, earlier if it meant that you had to travel to meet somebody, and now you can sit in one place and you can cover a larger,
Yes.
audience
Yes.
in a
Yeah.
way. So that is one part of it. Second is the questionnaire. So
Hmm.
it has also made the questionnaire dynamic, if I'm getting it right.
Yes. Yes. It has. I mean, see, in my last few years, we've tried making the questionnaire a personalized experience, yes, but when it comes to making it personalized in the sense by way of their choices, that's still not really happening in that sense. I mean, there is a software called a sawtooth that you use. So
Okay.
depending upon what answer that you've given earlier, the question text and questionnaire gets branched
Yeah.
out because of that choice that person has expressed. Yes, we do that, but that's little in still an expensive kind of a zone. So we've yet to use it in a very commonplace kind of a manner. It
Okay.
becomes a little expensive at this point in time
Okay.
to personalize your service in the form of answers that you have given. So yeah, there is a technology in place. We can do it, but we do it very rarely at this point in time. There's no
Okay.
build up on answers, build up of questions on your answers, which we have used very regularly. That is what we are not using very regularly. So that's what I
Hmm.
meant. So there is a human AI partnership which I'm seeing as we go ahead,
Okay.
because technology does make everything cheaper. So similarly, market research also has become much cheaper than what it was earlier. So yeah, I do see a lot of human AI partnership as we walk this path. So if personalizing questionnaires like you asked, if that becomes little cheaper, yes, that will be the order of the day. Because market research is not only about data collection; it is also about intelligent conversations or intelligent question building as we go along.
Yeah.
But that's happening. I'm seeing a lot of it happening in by way of gamification,
Okay.
and you're seeing that in the education industry. We are doing it big time in gaming industry.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
That's
gamification
hmm.
is a part of um, is a
Understanding
part
the.
yeah, is a part of how market research is
Hmm.
deployed to understand consumer behavior.
Yeah. So now
Yeah.
there is the next question that's coming to my mind is that what about the willingness of the people to share what they feel or what they think? So I'll just tell you what I'm trying to say. See, today we don't like to interact with human beings or every interaction. So we are quite self-service by nature. Most of the things happen that way. And then, if you compare how the willingness of the people to share information earlier and now with this advanced technology, is it any different, or do you find people still as willing to share what they were sharing earlier?
So see, there is a setup even here. So you do go through that setup process. You are talk whenever you're talking to your respondents or participants of your survey. You are telling them that you are looking for their honest and frank opinion, and the opinion is not going to be attributed to that one person who is given that answer. So there
Hmm.
is going to be a lot of consumer speak. So the whole data gets um, compiled together, and it is analyzed at an aggregated level. So in that sense, we don't attribute it to XYZ saying this particular aspect. So we are attributing it to, say, an SSC or an income level or a city. So those kind of aggregations we do. So,
Okay.
given that kind of permission that we have already taken right in the beginning, it is permitted. It is permitted, and people are willing to contribute to the discussions, so that they are able to contribute uh, to the manufacturer marketeer for developing the product. In fact, because of the startup culture, women have become more open about giving their opinions. I would say that. Yeah. And the startups also giving that kind of an importance to the consumer, so they're saying that you're adding value to our product and product development process. So women are liking it.
Now, the other advantage that I'm seeing while we are talking is that now it's an ongoing thing rather than one big time exercise. Like you have those large surveys, and then there's a lot of planning around that, and then you know how this whole thing is to happen, and then data collection, and then all those kind of stuff. So definitely, data collection has become much faster, I think, and companies can be given ongoing feedback, as and when it
Absolutely.
happens.
Absolutely, absolutely. You have pointed it out bang on. So it's like a online continuous online process of building up that conversation with a particular consumer group. Yes, that's what is happening, and that's what I meant by saying a lot of things, behaviors can be understood just because you have built up that conversation over multiple days, within a day, sometimes for multiple times you've spoken to that consumer or have interacted. So there are
Yeah.
different kinds of touch points. So earlier, if in a survey there were just 20 touch points that we used to have, today we would have 200 touch points in a span of,
Mm.
say, 3 or 4 days. So that really helps us to build the persona of the consumer in a really richer manner. So yeah, absolutely right. And that's where actually the whole AI and machine learning advantage is coming to play, and will make market research such a uh, exciting career. Although a lot of people are saying that market research is dead, but market research has converted itself into this new avatar of AI and machine learning, and to context that information
Hmm.
in a business kind of a scenario, or in a life of consumers kind of a scenario, you definitely would need a human researcher.
Yeah, so going good so far. Vibha, now just tell me that with so much of information available in social media, I mean, like almost the whole world is there, and on one side, and on the other side, with all these data protection and privacy and those kind of laws, and that also they are different in different countries. So, where with so much available, is there a need for market research in the first place, the traditional market research, or even in the new form?
That's a good question. You are right when you say that a lot of people are there in on different social media platforms. uh, we are engaged on social media platforms. We display a lot of our behaviors, what products we use, what recipes we do, what clothes we wear, which brands we use, all where are we eating our food. All those things are there on the social media. But then, you also made that point of data protection. So now each of these platforms have their own rules and regulations. So earlier on, that Facebook went through so much of crisis because of sharing data of their subscribers, their users. So nowadays, getting that third party data becomes it's almost like impossible. So therefore, the role of market research is there. You need a lot of when you're doing a very structured market research activity, or when they are doing certain transactions. Now, let's take an example of a bank. In a bank, a consumer, your customer will touch base with the bank at least 2 to 3 times in a month, and you would have those transaction points as your data points to understand your consumer. But then those data points become very transactional in nature. In these today's time, all manufacturer marketeers, whether it is a bank or a FMCG manufacturer marketer, all of them are into building relationships with their customers. So what do you do? So therefore, you do need to understand their personas, how they behave on different social media platforms, or how they behave in different kind of setups, other than dealing with only in that kind of a occasion when they're consuming your product. Yeah. So uh, while first party data is there, it becomes very transactional in nature. And
Ah,
because
yeah.
there is a need to develop relationships with the customer, and we there is a whole 9 yard of customer relationship management which every marketeer wants to follow now. There is a need of understanding your consumer a little more better, in a little more detailed manner, and therefore research comes into the game again. So there's a first party data, there's a third party data available, but third party data has lots of data protection rules. So we cannot access and tap that without permissions and stuff in place. So once again, I mean, you do need market research to build that consumer behavior map or consumer persona, or consumer customer journey as they call it in today's time.
So now the other thing is that at what points, okay, in a product life cycle, does market research need to come in?
I mean,
I mean, is
you have your answer in your question.
okay,
There's a product life cycle. There's
okay.
a product life cycle. So yeah, a product life cycle goes through its introductory stage, its growth stage, its the peak stage, and there is a decline stage. So at every stage, if the manufacturer marketer is doing an intervention, however small, big intervention, depending upon the scale of their business ambitions, uh, they should, I would say, uh, conduct a market research and get that consumer or customer connect at every stage of their research, at every stage of their product life cycle, I mean. So research would typically follow the product life cycle stage. In fact, I am very happy that in today's time, uh, a lot of small and medium scale entrepreneurs also are getting this point that developing consumer connect or customer connect is so important. So they are commissioning small researches, and that becomes very helpful for people like me who are now not working for bigger organizations. So we operate as independent freelance market researchers and analytics people, because I do work for an analytics company called as Chi-Square, where wherever there is a data vacuum area for Chi-Square, I try and fill it up by doing conversations with consumers. So market research does follow product life cycles. It is therefore useful, and you can use it at every stage of your product.
So one thing very interesting which you said is that it has kind of moved from the larger companies and large surveys down the line, and I think even startups, if I'm not mistaken, would be using it to a very large extent because
They
that's
do, they do.
yeah.
A lot of startups are using market research to understand their consumers better and to develop their products, to improve their products,
To
to
find the gaps.
find the gaps
Yeah.
and bridge those gaps. Yes, they do it. So, let me give you an example of business decisioning, Satyendra. So, you would be seeing a lot of gaming companies in these
Yeah.
times. Gaming is a very popular sport, and that too, gaming on your phones or desktops or laptops is becoming more and more popular. uh, when you're doing these gaming activities, they are also there are professional gamers who play it with stakes, right? So uh, the business challenge that these gaming companies are really facing is this, that after the gamer really downloads the app, how do you keep the gamer engaged with your app? Because the acquisition cost of a gamer is pretty much high. And if the gamer is playing the game with the with the stakes, and just in case, uh, on the first day itself, on day zero, when say if you say 0 to 7 or 15 is a cycle of a gamer to be on the app. On a 0 day, if he is losing all his stakes or he loses his motivation to play the game, then what does a gaming company do? I mean, all the acquisition cost of that gamer might just go down the drain. So how do you keep that gamer engaged? Because typically, what I've seen, we worked with many gaming companies, and what I've seen is the break-even point for the gaming period for a gaming company is about 10 to 12 days. Okay,
Okay.
so you have it's post the onboarding. You have to keep the gamer engaged on a continuous basis. So how do you do that? So it is in these kind of situations, these new age company situations, where you can use automation very very smartly and make sure that your customer is engaged with your product, your brand, for a longer period of time. So all your acquisition strategies to really pay off will help when all these engagement strategies start working through automation, because
Yeah.
the triggers will actually help you to engage that customer into your app or your on your digital platform much better than what a normal human intervention can do. Sorry.
Research. Where does market research come into this?
So, in this whole game of keeping the customer engaged, and the role of technology to come to the play to keep him engaged, you need some interim, quick kind of conversations that can happen, that should happen, so that what are the triggers of this consumer, so that he remains engaged with your platform. So finally, it is all about consumer behavior, Satinder. You work
Yeah.
in a gaming kind of a setup, or you work in a FMCG kind of a setup. The need of the hour is to keep your consumer engaged with your
Engaged.
brand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it could be the consumer could consume your brand through a digitized way as well. So you have to develop those digital assets so that you are constantly interacting with that
Yeah.
consumer. So
Correct.
that's the new business challenge, which not just gaming company, but I think every other company is
Yeah.
facing today. So
Engagement
there
is,
is, yeah,
yeah.
so there is a role of market research which is there.
Yeah. So interesting. So now, if we were to kind of conclude, what is it that you would like to share with the listeners?
I would say with mm, market research is here to stay, but it can be deployed in a different manner using AI and technology. In fact, it's going to be a boon for a lot of manufacturer marketers in these times. It will help them to develop their growth metrics in a faster period of time, because there's so many different data sources that they have. They can have an access to those data sources, fusion their findings, and develop sharper roadmaps for themselves, very tight growth metrics for themselves, which they can follow and keep monitoring. So I think this whole human intelligence and artificial intelligence combination is only going to make marketeer better at his business decisioning process. That would be my message.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, you're saying market research is here to stay. That's one. Second thing is that we will have a lot of hybrid models because everybody will be in a different stage of, evolution and technology.
Yes.
And so long as the human is there, research will always be there on the behavior of the human.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because
So
consumer behavior will be there and understanding the consumer behavior will be the need.
So thank you so much, Vibha, for your time and for sharing your experience and for also sharing how this is moved over a period of time. Thank you once again.
Thanks a lot, Satinder, for having me over. And I'm very glad to partner with you in any of your initiatives. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.